When things do not go your way. When you are autistic, this is one of the most agonizing things to happen to us. Because for us, it's a point where we have spent a lot of time in our own minds where we think about how a situation is going to happen. If we have planned something, this is exactly what goes on. We simulate it in our own minds. We picture exactly how the moment is going to happen. We start planning our lives around this particular scenario that we're either looking forward to or something that we know is going to happen. So it's like we prepare for it. It's basically preparation for that particular event. And because of that, it is extremely frustrating when we do all of that planning, we do all of that organizing for the event, preparing ourselves, only to find out that all the things that we were planning for just end up being a complete waste of time because there was a last minute cancellation, or you did everything you could during that event and it didn't go the way that you planned. It didn't go the way that you wanted. And then the worst part is that now, because it didn't happen the way that we wanted it to, we're now having meltdowns. We are frustrated. We're really trying to figure out what happened, what is the reason for why that happened, and we fixate on it so much. It repeats in our minds so many times that why did it go the way that it did? It is one of the most annoying things. Absolutely. It's so fucking frustrating for that to happen. It happened to me not too long ago, where I had a couple job opportunities and at the last minute it got cancelled. Yeah, and I'm going through it right now. I am working through it right now, trying to figure out what the reason is. But I do know that autistic people are 100% capable of not fixating about it all the time. It just takes us a little bit longer. And this is the reason why I want to talk about this today, because not only do I want to talk about how frustrating it is for that to happen to us, but I also want to give some advice on how you can deal with it. Because the one thing that all of us autistic people need to understand and realize is the fact that when we go through those things, when we go through these meltdowns, these shutdowns, the ultra fixations, the hyper fixations, that's what I was trying to say, and we just keep on going back and forth every single time, the reason simply is because our minds is trying to find a rationalization as to why it happened, why it didn't go our way, why that person cancelled on us, why that job opportunity decided to go to someone else instead of you, even though it was supposed to be for you. All of these scenarios that happen, what we're trying to do is find a rationalization, because it doesn't make sense. When things don't go our way, especially when we've planned it, we've spent all the time planning, organizing, fitting our schedules around this event and, moving things, altering stuff to cater to the thing that we are preparing for, only to find out at the last second, nothing happens. We're trying to figure out exactly why that is the case, because it doesn't make sense to us. And here's the thing, I know for a fact it's not just autistic people that go through this. I know for a fact that non-autistic people go through this too. But just like in most cases, they're able to deal with it better just because they're able to process it faster than we can. But fear not, because even though they may be able to process it faster than us, that doesn't mean that we can't do it. That doesn't mean that we can't find ways to find rationalizations. So I'm going to give 4 ways to deal with when things don't go the way that you planned. Starting with number 1, which is acknowledge your feelings and then write them down. The reason why this helps is because, like I mentioned before, we are trying to find rationalizations as to why the event or the person cancelled on us, or whatever it is. Whatever the reason is to why the plan that you spent so much time in your head trying to figure out is no longer happening. And writing them down really does help, because what happens when we're so in our own heads is that it just becomes a mess, because we don't know exactly what's going on in our heads at that point. Because remember, change is happening. Something that we didn't expect is now happening. So our brain is now going haywire. Our brain is basically doing this, right? So we're not able to just, kind of keep it in our own heads. So writing it down in a piece of paper, what's going on in our own heads, really does, it's like it kind of separates our thoughts from our minds, because it's now on a piece of paper, and it makes us able to see it in the physical. It's like we can physically see our thoughts when we've written it down. And that's exactly the reason why writing it down is a much more effective way of doing that. Now, in situations where you are feeling very stressed, I also recommend doing it in a place that you find comfortable, in a private space where you can be, a very quiet space where you can allow yourself to think. Once you've done that, you move on to number 2, which is sitting with yourself and allowing the moment to pass. Now, I briefly touched on sitting with yourself in the video that I made about why masking is so dangerous. And a lot of people might be wondering, what does that mean by sitting with yourself? Simple. Like I said earlier, put yourself in a quiet space where you're able to think. And that means literally just sitting there, doing nothing, just being in your own space where it's nice and quiet, where there isn't any noise. Because the reason why I say a quiet environment, I'm pretty sure you must know, sensory overload. If you are frustrated, if you're fixating over something that didn't happen, the last place where you'll be able to understand what's going on is in a noisy environment. That is the last place, or a crowded environment. That is the last place that you will ever be able to think. You know what's going to happen? You're just going to get even more frustrated, which is going to make it even worse. So if you put yourself in a quiet space, like where I am right now, I'm in my room, my cat's behind me, just don't really talk to anyone. Just allow yourself to really understand what's going on in your own head once you've written it down. Yeah, so you can, if you're in your own space and you sit with yourself, once you've written it down, you would just allow the moments to pass. Because here's the thing about emotions, they only stay there as long as you allow it. That is a key point. As long as you allow the emotions to stay there. Meaning, if you choose to just sit there and think, you know what, I'm gonna let the emotions pass, you know what happens? The emotions stay there way less than if you just keep on fixating on the exact same thing over and over and over and over again. It doesn't stay there as long if you just allow the emotions to pass. Because it's kind of like when, let's just say, a spoiled child is just fiending for attention from you. What happens if you give that child attention, that it keeps tugging on your shirt or something, and you keep acknowledging it, you keep acknowledging this child? What's going to happen? It's going to want more. He or she's going to want more. However, if you just completely ignore that child, eventually it's going to give up and it's going to stop. And that's exactly the same thing when it comes to your emotions. If you let them pass, eventually they will just clear away. There won't be anything else. Yes, sure, it will take some time. It won't be instant. So that's the one thing I'm not going to say to anyone listening. It's not going to be instant. It will take time. Especially because you also need that time to process the emotions. So you're basically doing 2 in 1 at that point. You are processing your emotions and you're also letting them pass at the same time. But if you set that intention, eventually it will go away. So please don't expect instant gratification. That's not going to happen. It will require some time in order to do so. But if you just stay with it, it will go eventually. And you will be able to find solutions. You will be able to acknowledge solutions. Number 3. This is something that may actually help if you still can't find that rationalization, which is allowing experiences to come to you. Sometimes you might need to experience some things in order for it to make more sense. And it could be anything. Like life situations that happen to you can also provide those missing pieces. This is exactly the reason why I keep saying in all of my videos, get out of your comfort zone. Don't just stay in your house. I mean, here's the thing. Sometimes if you are in your own house, things can happen that will click somehow. But if you go out somewhere, or if you just, I don't know, even if you just go to the park or something, go to the park where there's no one around, just get in touch with nature a bit more. That can also help. And the last point I want to bring up is, while you're going through this kind of like reset, trying to reset your own brain, the last thing, and this is very important, is try not to share with anyone what you're going through until you have made sense of what you are feeling. And the reason is simply this. It's because the last thing that you need is outside influences filling up your brain. Because remember, us autistic people, we take things literally a lot of the time, and we take things at face value a lot of the time. So while we're still trying to process our own emotions, do you really want to process other people's thoughts as well while you're still processing your own thoughts? No, you don't. You don't need that. And plus, even though those people that you may want to confide into, the reason why it's also not helpful is simply because they could say things that might not even be the case. Because remember, they don't understand what's going on in our own heads. Only we do. Hence why I always say, understand yourself more. But anyway, because of that, those thoughts can take an effect, and we start thinking that those thoughts that may not entirely be true end up being true. We end up believing that, and it can basically steer us completely away from what the true thing really is. And that's the reason why it's a bad thing, because the answers are within us. The answers are always within us. It just takes time to find the answers. I'm not saying that no one can help, because there's the thing, some people can guide you as well. However, as I mentioned before, I personally think it's better to share with people once you've kind of made sense of what's going on in your own head, and then you can have some outside thoughts afterwards, because that can actually help you find it as well. But until that point, and while you're still figuring it out, while you're still trying to process everything, I don't recommend sharing it with others while you're in that state, especially if you're in the meltdown state. Go into a quiet room, acknowledge your feelings, sit with yourself, allow the moments to pass. If that don't work, maybe you might need some outside experiences to help bring in those missing pieces, And most importantly, don't share it with anyone while you're going through it, because eventually you might get it. We definitely have the capability to get through this. And here's the thing, I'm talking to myself as well. In fact, this is actually a video for myself, for what I mentioned earlier, because things weren't going right for me. It just seems like back to back things was going wrong. So this is also just a reminder to myself. So I will follow this as well, what I'm saying. So I had a bonus point that I wanted to bring up, which was, so this is number 5, which is remembering all the good things that's happened in your life and being grateful for those. And the simple reason for why it's important to remember this is because obviously when it comes to when we're so fixated on what we wanted that didn't go our way, we tend to, of course, just think about all the negative stuff. And literally, if we continue to just constantly think about why it didn't go our way and everything, we are putting ourselves in a negative space, which will cause us to perceive the world and just outcomes in general. It will just make us more, skeptical and cynical. So because of that, it's always good to remember the positive things, because if we remember the positive things and what we're going to achieve, it will make us feel so much better as a result. So I would say when it comes to writing stuff down in the beginning, when you're acknowledging your feelings, once you've done the previous 4 steps, then write down all the positive stuff that's going on in your life to kind of refresh your perception. So that way your mind isn't constantly just thinking about the negatives. But anyway, I hope that helps. Thank you guys for watching today. Be sure to check the link down below to the Autism podcast hosted by myself and my co-host Dr. Sophia Christofi, where we interview autistic guests. We just released an episode not too long ago featuring Katie Monday. And also I just want to do a quick apology for not really being around recently. There's been a lot of things that's been happening. There's a lot of things that's been happening recently with me, and I just haven't had much time to make much videos, but I do want to make more videos. I've definitely got a lot of ideas. To anyone who hasn't subscribed yet, there's definitely a lot of insightful videos that I would like to share with you guys if you are autistic, to help you reach your highest potential. I will say this in every video: if we understand ourselves more, we will understand the true potential that's been hidden within us all along, that society didn't help us unlock. But with this channel, I'm hoping to do so. So yeah, if you agree with this video, type in the comments your thoughts. Tell me some experiences that you may have gone through where things didn't go your way. Let's make a conversation about this. I know a lot of people haven't been doing it, but I do encourage anyone who watches this video to type in the comments what you think. Thank you once again. This has been Simeon of Guiding Neurons, and remember, stay blessed and keep expanding.